lipstick of how much they are valued based on conventional methods, based on non-traditional methods at times. But at the end of the day, there must be some use cases. Are you a startup wanting to raise funds? Are you a corporation that is pursuing some kind of M&A activities? Are you a family business that is planning for some form of succession planning? So these are the kind of possibilities that we can cover today.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. Maybe what we do is have you kind of kick off and create like a foundational point to the conversation. Micah similarly is very well steeped in artificial intelligence. He deals with it and talks about it day in and day out. Also technology more broadly. He himself has been doing some things to get funded as a company as you have, and so there's certainly the valuation part, using technology to improve the valuation of the company, and then just using technology to just improve the company. So it's kind of almost the same thing, right? So
very complementary, which is good. You always have a knack for bringing the right panelists, Doc, for all our events. So thank you for that.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Micah, what do you think? What have you known Nazri before?
I have not had the opportunity to meet Nazri, so it is a pleasure.
Okay. It's a pleasure, Micah.
I thought everybody in the world knew Nazri, so it's good that we're able to do that. And
we were one closer today.
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, cool. Well, when would you like it to get going? Because we're right at the top of the hour.
Probably we'll wait for a few more minutes.
Okay.
2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll kick off. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, guys, I was a little bit late. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
Who is that talking?
It's Raj.
Raj.
Hey, Raj. Oh. Okay. We had a long discussion last night with Raj for about
almost 3 hours, right? That's good. I liked it.
Hi, Nazri. We meet again. Yes. Hi, Kafkoi from Bangladesh.
Micronutrient deficiencies and all the other forms of
Fantastic. Great. Raj, meet Micah. I don't think you guys know each other. Raj Mupala, you guys I don't think know, and Raj is with AI Infinity. Actually, Raj, how do you say it? How do you say your
AI Infinity, yeah.
AI Infinity. Okay, so AI.
The same question last night.
Got it. And he's based in the UK, Micah. And Micah, maybe let Raj know a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Sure. Yeah. We are working on AI for content generation, and so we are attacking the problem of marketing from a different perspective. We help companies. We develop tools to help small and mid-sized companies compete effectively online. Even with all the other large companies that can afford to invest in substantial marketing campaigns, AI really has the ability to kind of level that playing field and provide a benefit even for the little guys. And so they can come in and they can rank online and show up online for a very cost-effective amount. So that's how we're applying it.
Oh, that's great.
How about you, Raj? Let Micah know a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in the space of technology, and we're currently using AI, NLP, and some parts of machine learning, really about solving some of the problems about unstructured data, looking at content, not content really about the news, and also the sentiments and risk insights, so that to help organizations to get that insights very quickly from the evolving social media sentiment and trending insights and things like that.
That's a pretty hot area.
Yeah, it is evolving, and yeah, it is a big spot. Yes.
That's really neat. That's really neat.
Raj talked last week, a week ago today, and showed some demos of that and getting kind of global sentiment. It was pretty cool, really cool.
That is really cool. I would like to see that.
Yeah, I'll show it later. Yeah, sure. Thanks. You're based out of US, US, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we are based out of the U.S. and we really just started the process of international expansion. So we are working on expanding into 9 countries right now, and we're working on opening up our first office outside the United States. In fact, we're working on 3 locations: one in Ireland, one in Germany, and one in Mexico. So.
Right.
Yeah, things moved a little bit more, a little bit quicker than I had assumed they would. So it kind of caught us by surprise a little bit.
Oh, that's great. It's great. Yeah, we are based out of London now, and one of the things we're trying to expand into the US. We have operations in India and a little bit in Europe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. And who's your solution targeted towards?
So currently we're looking at financial services mainly.
Mm-hmm.
And also the product has got its wings. It can take up into different verticals also, because it actually serves any customer who has customers. So, right, it just, yeah, naturally we evolved to the financial services because of the current risk and, you know, in the COVID-19 space. And that's kind of our efforts have been, but yeah, it's really that, yeah.
That's really neat. That is really cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
And how have you been finding, you know, we've had a change in the investment landscape and the really usage landscape since COVID-19. How have you found that that's impacted you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yes, we are all affected in this space, I think, right? Yes, we were trying to raise some funds, which is actually going through. It's kind of a little bit delayed, but yes, the answer is yes, we are impacted in the customers' interactions also, because obviously they've been very quieter, and although there's no need for that, but yeah, it's been kind of very quiet for the last at least good 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I think we are kind of coming out of the lockdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, we actually did the exact same thing. We launched our product, even it's been in development for about 4 years, and you know, I think that we're going to have to contact the Guinness Book of World Records, because I'm pretty certain that we're going to hold the record for the worst time to launch a product. But even considering that, it has been, for us, it's been going pretty well. Yeah, and so AI is just a great space to be in.
Yes, great, yes. So you're which side of US? You're in your north, East Coast, or where did you say you're from?
Arizona.
Oh, so, okay, great.
Yeah, along with Doug.
He's my neighbor. Yeah.
Huh?
Cool. Nice.
And how about yourself? You guys are in you guys are in England now, but what part?
London, yeah. We are based in London. Yes, I'm at home right now, so which feels a good place to be rather than being a WeWork office, right? So. Yeah, we are kind of London, which is south, place called Wimbledon. You know, the tennis place?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We are not too far from here, 2 miles from here, 2.5 miles.
Cool.
Yeah. But this year is cancelled, right? So after the history of 100 years, yeah.
Yeah. The chaos and craziness from what's going on.
COVID. Yes.
I'm not sure. I didn't want to take up too much time with us chatting. If I'm not sure what you guys would like to do for this. We got planned for the program here. But
I think we're probably ready to go. What do you think, Nazri?
Good to go.
Okay.
I think on a Friday evening in Asia, people are still chilling and drinking and dinnering. So the crowd will come in, gradually streaming in. So I guess we can start at this point. Thanks, Doug.
That sounds good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As Nazri mentioned, evening in Singapore. so people probably coming back from dinner, maybe some sort of a fish head curry maybe for dinner. I would love to be able to do that again, Nazri. I appreciate you taking me to that place when the last time I was there. Today we're not going to be talking about fish head curry. We're going to be talking about something that is quite hot in a different way, and that is artificial intelligence. We're going to be talking about valuing your business and adding value to your business using technology. And we've got two of the smartest people you'll ever meet regarding artificial intelligence here in the room. We've also got other folks that are rival them in terms of their capabilities on the line as well. So I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation. What we'll do is we'll have each of our key speakers talk and share some information. We'll have opportunities for you to ask questions, and we'll just kind of go from there. We'll be talking for roughly an hour. That includes the talk and discussion and Q&A and things like that. And my name, by the way, is Doug Bruhnke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We do fun things like this to help companies find new opportunities so they can not only continue to grow, but accelerate, hopefully, their growth. And there's never been a more important time to find new opportunities, to pivot to new opportunities, and to be flexible and resilient in whatever you're doing within your business. So of the two speakers, I'd like to kick off with the world famous Nazri Mood. He's the founder and CEO of MyFinB Group. He is based out of Singapore. He has a wealth of knowledge in the fintech space and all sorts of technologies. And what he'll do today is kick us off and give us some foundational information about not just the valuing your business and how you can use technology, but how you can inject technology into your business, which is a big topic, but Nazri, I know you can handle it. So please go ahead and kick us off.
Thanks, Doc, Micah, and everyone else tuning in. I understand that there's quite a diversified crowd, ranging from consultants, from accounting, advisory firms, owners of businesses, startups, as well as corporate professionals from banks, institutions, and so on. So when you talk about valuing business, it could mean on a first-party basis or third-party basis. First-party means I evaluate the business for myself for purposes of M&A, fundraising, and so on. And third-party means that you are an acquirer that may want to basically look at the drivers of your valuation, asking you to justify it and making that a purchase amount to offer to you, right? So at the end of the day, the purpose of my presentation is to uncover the quickest and effective way to value one's business with using technology that is able to digest or ingest financial data, non-financial data, current historical news, and making predictions about the future and writing about it. Okay, telling a story about your past, present, and future while attaching a value to your business. So this is the part where AI becomes interesting, number one. However, as a result of the lockdown, company valuations, as Micah was mentioning together with Raj, right? Company valuations are plummeting across the sectors, across industries, making it even more important for business owners to understand what really drives the value of their business. So let's start from a first-party perspective, right? So before digital disruption, it seems fairly straightforward, right, to know the value of your business. And with limited variables, it's like unlikely to swing wildly. The word is wild in a volatile manner from year to the next, okay, from a valuation perspective. Now, with the emergence of digital juggernauts, with the COVID-19, companies that appear to be performing well and maintaining their historical levels consistently because of their revenue and EBITDA might be surprised to find themselves worth half or less of what they were just a year ago. So even if your business is considered legit or hot by buyers, this can change very quickly and with little warning. Hence, technology plays a part in gathering the latest data, emerging risks, emerging trends, and opportunities that would otherwise not be able to be used to be determined or derived by manual methods. So how to value your business? What sort of technology can help you to do this quick and effective? So today we are going to address those questions. And if you look at my next slide, at the end of the day, there are 4 parts that we're going to cover. Number one, the traditional or conventional thinking of why we take business valuation shall be challenged. So why is business valuation even more important now, right? And second one is the challenges in valuing companies. What are the challenges that you would encounter if you were to value companies traditionally? Third part will be how is AI being used in valuing companies? And fourth is to go through a simple case study. So the topic about why business valuation is important, right? Let's take startups, for example. With valuation sinking or tanking, startups are becoming reticent to fundraising like as per normal. It's no longer business as usual. So VC firms, private equity firms, seeing the lower prices are becoming more aggressive, and it becomes like a VC's world. They decide on the pricing, they decide on the buying price, and amid the weak markets right now. So data from dealroom.co, for example, which tracks European startups, says that valuations are down by about 40%. In Asia, it's about 30 to 40%, around there. Because of that, experts say that smaller startups that have been profitable could find themselves being piqued interest from venture capitalists. Some others note that the road ahead could just be very tough for small businesses, not just startups. And the bigger businesses and unicorns may have difficulty in that arena, although they will need to try and raise funds anyway, despite the market not being right for that currently. So if you look at it in totality, when you look at the forces, the tsunami that's brought about by COVID-19 that wipes industries off the charts, like the airlines and the retail and all that. So we ask ourselves, okay, valuation is needed for fundraising because you need to defend the valuation of your company with fundamentals. The hype factor is now corroded terribly, and fundamentals become more critical for investors to be selective. Valuation is important for fundraising because it determines how much dilution you need to give up, right? And if you are somebody who has multiple properties, you have multiple investments, you are a venture builder, you're a venture capitalist, you make money left, right, and center. So you need to know actually your net worth on a personal basis as well as at your enterprise level. So knowing your net worth is very important because the years of you running, sprinting, slogging your business for decades, right? You need to know the valuation of the company and subsequently your individual net worth. So companies that are trying to grow amidst very weak organic settings, they have to think about mergers and acquisitions. So they have to grow non-organically. Again, if you are the buyer, you're the acquirer, business valuation in a COVID setting, you need to factor in a lot of scenarios of what COVID-19 could bring about, whether it's a spike, whether it's a gradual, whether it's a sudden spike and then smoothen out. So all these factors affect the way you determine the future value of that company. So if you're a family business where 60% of Asian businesses are largely family-based, so you are worried about the effects of COVID-19, you're worried about succession planning, the next person to take over, next family member to take over the helm, right? You need to bring in more professionals. You need to restructure your company. So this is linked to the business structuring. In order for you to restructure with new model, with new pivoting strategies, you need to basically determine what would be the driving force that will bring your company at a discount or at a premium. So the COVID-19 brings about new perspective, new dimension, new reasons for you to value your business even more. And you don't have to think of sell your business to do your valuation. You need to take stock of how the red dot over there has impacted, right, the fundamentals of your business and to what extent it has undervalued your fundamentals. So this is why it's important to understand what are the business drivers. Okay. Let me just move to the next slide. So some of the challenges that we come across when it comes to valuing companies would be what methods, what approaches to undertake. So of course, for startups, you tend to measure based on sales to multiple, PE multiples, you tend to do some comparables, but not necessarily for more traditional businesses where you have to take into account your NTA, your NAVs, net asset value, capitalized earnings growth, right? Various other methods that are more relevant, more reflective of your business. So it matters whether you're asset light or asset heavy to decide on how to value companies. So for business owners that do not know the methods, approaches, the pros and cons, they will tend to follow the flow. They will tend to put an estimate to it and it could be an undervalued or overvalued position, but the methods may not be inappropriate or correctly applied. So this is where it comes at a cost to the businesses that value themselves wrongly, or at the same time, if they get an expert who is so expensive that value them and charge them an arm and a leg, right? And you don't get the value that you want, then that's where the cost will become a sunk cost for you, and you have to burn a hole in your pocket, right? And one of the challenges in valuing companies is basically the time taken. So typically a consultant will take about 2 to 3 months doing a very comprehensive valuation, and probably about 2 to 3 weeks doing a desktop valuation, where they start to interview you, evaluate your business models, right? Look at your SWOT analysis, look at your financials, past, present, future, assumptions behind that. And that's where the long debate of how reasonable those assumptions are. In fact, interestingly, earlier today, we had a discussion with a venture capitalist who operates in the region, comes from a big fund, it's a VC, right? So, some of the questions that they asked, about us would be, okay, with the COVID effects, how would this impact your customers, your collections, your expansion plans, etc. So, they will try very, very hard to press down your valuation at the negotiation table. And then, when you adjust your figures from a high to a low, because to factor in the assumptions, they will say, oh, because you've adjusted your valuation low, so we want it lower. But then if you don't adjust your valuation, you make it very high, they will say, why wouldn't the COVID affect you? It affects everybody, so you should not set so high. So there will always be, two ways to look at things. And this is where fundamentals will always prevail. You must be able to describe your business model. You must be able to have information at your fingertips. You must be able to justify for every, natural instinct for a buyer to buy a low price and seller to sell at a high price, right? So you need to have data. Information is very critical to overcome the challenges when you are at the discussion table, negotiation table on whether to sell at a certain price or agree to the discount that the other party wants. So these are very real, and it has happened, and it's happening almost every day, right? Between VCs and the startups themselves. Okay, so you talked about, we've seen how important valuation is now. We talked about the challenges, and now let me touch a little bit on how AI is being used to value companies. So there's 2 types of technology that is being deployed to value a business. On the left-hand side, you talk about natural language generation, where you take into account spreadsheets, dashboards, statistics, figures, loan documents, any form of numerical data that you can process it and go through what you call the 5 levels of analytics, from descriptive and diagnostic, which is considered weak AI, moving on to the stronger AI, such as predict, prescribe, and monitor. Basically, you look at a set of information together with the unstructured data, which comprises of news, annual reports, publication, social media, business plans, press releases, and so on. Combine these 2 together, you are able to use AI to tell you what happened to the company, profile of the company, benchmark of the company, why it performed that way, what could happen in the future, what needs to be done to achieve certain valuation, and how to monitor the progress of the valuation in the next 6 to 9 months and bring it to the next level from Series A to Series B and C and so on. So AI can be used to do the functions of a CFO. It's like a robo-CFO, a robo-CIO, Chief Investment Officer, that is able to instantaneously pull structured and unstructured data and go through this process. So, things that take 3 days or 3 weeks, as mentioned before, can be basically processed under 1 hour to get all your details. So a very quick case study before I pass over to Doug will be a case involving a particular media company, right? A particular media company that has a certain financial attributes. Sales grew in a certain way, margins are very low, cash rich, right? They pay down their debts, and all this can be determined by a system, right? So if I can get my colleague, the administrator, to flash the report, that would be great. So this is a case of a media production company and content marketing company domiciled in Nigeria, specializing in creating media content that is rich in value, education, and information to the benefit of the family of viewers. Okay, so they experience a certain set of financials as mentioned. So when you put up the business plan financials, the machine will be able to provide financial insights about a company, the investment profile, the valuation drivers, 5-year forecast, all done by machines, interpreting the qualitative and quantitative data. So pertaining to the media industry, you're able to extract information and create the problem statements for them. You're able to determine the needs of companies in the media industry. You're able to dissect and extract the market size, estimated market size of the media company. You're able to determine the competition, the competitive environment of the company, all done by the NLP side of things. And then the NLG, natural language generation side of things, will interpret their financials, will do a benchmark analysis of them versus their peers, give an overall rating. 12 is excellent, 1 is poor, 7 is above average. Then you get to see how they are benchmarked against the median, and you get to see the explanation of the system, highlighting the issues relating to the business performance, the impact of their strategies on shareholder value, how they deploy their resources to deliver profits and sales, and what are the risk areas to watch out for. Right? So these are the things that are determined and interpreted by the system. And then from an investment perspective, simple dashboard would be producing about how their ability to generate higher sales, the movement of sales versus liabilities, are they strong generally, right? Based on historical, current, and future, how do they look like? And this is where what every business owner wants to know when do fundraising, because this is done in their local currency, Naira. So 4 specific methods are being shown: capitalized future earnings, NAV, PE multiples, and discounted cash flow. So if I'm a business owner, I'm given 4 options, right? 4 methods show 4 very different outcome, right? And from here, you're able to see what's their performance, again, in more details, and the traffic light to show, what are the gaps that they need to address, and then followed by determining what are the things that they need to do to increase or improve their valuation drivers. So this is where the system will detect and highlighted how they should manage their costs better, how they should examine the demands of the firm's services and products, and whether there's any pull out from any customers. That means they need to show a more stable side of their clientele mix, right? And they actually reduce any of their pricing strategy to generate higher volume, because these are telltale signs that would an intelligent investor would detect and question you. So now, before you even meet the investors, you're able to anticipate what they're likely to ask, okay, and take precautionary and proactive measures from there. And from here, it provides each of the bullet points, couple of bullet points will translate into new details, more comprehensive details about what you need to do to improve your business performance and business valuation. So I'll not go through every detail, but here I am showing how an AI technology can potentially help any businesses that want to prepare themselves for the investors, and the system even detected AI can be used to extract sort of growth assumption for that sector, the credit risk indication, inflation rate, risk-free treasury rate, and so on, in order to determine some of the variables for that. Yeah. So may I return to the deck, please? Thank you. This is the scenarios. Because of COVID, right, there could be some severe declines. So there are also scenario analysis, not just prescriptive, but predictive, in terms of what happens when the sales or the costs start to move in different directions. How would that impact your underlying valuation, and what you need to do to address that? Okay, moving on, the key takeaways from me is that the valuation is important for both personal and business net worth. I would urge every business owner, doesn't matter who you go to, what method you use, but try to get a sense of the years that you put into your startups and business. What are you really worth? And value it basically, from the handkerchief method to the more methodical method to the desktop method. It's just not about buying or selling businesses. It's about taking stock of how the measures that you take, the valuation that the strategies that you pursue, and the efforts that you put in, the technology's worth, the IP that you put in, how much has it worth since then till now. AI can also be used to reduce too much subjective assumptions. Now, this is something very important. So every time you meet a VC, you meet an investor, you meet an acquirer, right? whether you say left, they will say right. You say right, they will say left, right? So at the end of the day, cover all angles and know your facts, know your figures, know your information, connect the dots very quickly using technology. So AI as a service forms a small fraction of a cost as compared to a traditional valuation exercise. This has been proven over time. A typical valuation exercise in Singapore and even in Malaysia it will cost between 150 to 200,000 ringgit to come out with a 30, 40 page document. In Singapore, it's about 30 to 50,000 Singapore dollars, okay, which is about what, 40,000 US to do a simple desktop stroke due diligence on the valuation of your company, right? So basically, a fraction of that can be acquired. You can acquire the same quality service at a fraction of a price, at a fraction of a time, okay, as compared to a traditional valuation exercise. So this is where we believe in helping the SMEs and startups to get a head start on how to determine a valuation and how to negotiate better and how to do it beyond just buying and selling, but more for capital expansion. With that, thank you very much, Doug. Over to you.
Before we head it over to Micah, I'm just curious then, is this a service that you're offering at MyFinB?
Yeah, I think for many years, listed companies, accounting firms, advisory firms, SMEs themselves, in fact, the company that you see there even comes from international services. So yes, indeed, this is something that we make it available on a basis that the channel partners, the advisors, would typically use it to service their clients. So we try not to service the clients directly. Basically, we work through our channels who then acquire our services to basically roll out the valuation services for their clients. Yep.
Got it. And one of the quick questions that's come in, I see the report generated quite a bit of text and contents besides the numeric information. Are you saying that the system is capable of formulating the text and contents and I guess presumably some of the conclusions as well? Or is that input by an expert that's monitoring the system?
Yeah, 99% of what you see there is auto-generated. And we have two gentlemen here, Raj and Micah, right, Micah? And they deal with the text part of things also, I believe. I stand to be corrected, but so extracting text and putting a dashboard around it and rephrasing what they have, what the text original content have is one aspect of it. As you can see, as the AI gets stronger and more powerful, it's able to make its own assertions, inferences, predictions, and prescriptions. So our AI goes through the whole 9 yards, be able to interpret all these text via a few 100,000 scenarios of the financial ratios and few million articles out there within a certain period of time regarding the industry, the competitors, and economy. And then this can be packaged into a natural language generation platform. It creates original text, its own inferences, its own deductions, and its own, visioning on how a company or a subject matter or a subject person should be, what happened to them, what caused them to be like that, what could happen in the future, under what scenarios, and what needs to be done, and how to monitor them. So the whole 9 yards would mean that AI can produce volumes of cases like that moving forward. Yeah.
Got it. So does MyFinB then have this technology and then you sell it to the accountants or bankers or others directly and then they use the system? Is that the normal business model that you use?
Right. Our system is designed to help consultants and practitioners and senior management get a desktop valuation. So, like I said, you can basically over the counter upload your stuff into a platform between 500 to 1,500 US, 1,500 US, as opposed to 20 to 30,000 US. You basically get the kind of report that you've seen that looks at your past, present, future, that looks at your industry, that looks at forecast for you 5 years ahead, imputing all the relevant assumptions that VCs will not be able to argue too much, about the fundamentals, because this is a fundamental approach. So this has been used also not just for unlisted companies, but also for stocks like equities, right? So you want to know how Ben Graham or Warren Buffett invest in stocks. They look at fundamentals. You look at Kensley method, right? You look at all the different ratios and different fundamental intrinsic value, and then you compare it against the market value and to see whether they are under or overvalued. So the relative valuation aspect is an important component in valuing a company. Like what I believe in this mantra for a very long time. When I was in the corporate world, in fund management in Citigroup, we had all the sell side analysts coming to us, and one of them that struck my mind and still recall it very much is JP Morgan. They came out with this famous phrase: "There's no such thing as a bad company. It's just bad pricing." So valuation is an important adopter of pricing strategies, and then comparing it as to whether you get it at your worth or not. Yeah.
Got it. Another question from Roger. The 5-year forecast, is that based on just historical figures, or how does it incorporate macro events that are happening or predicted to happen?
Yeah, I skipped the last part for time reasons, but if you look at the last part of financials, there's two-year historical and 3-year forward. And this can be customized. You can look at historical 5 years back, and you can look at 5 years forward. So when you try to traject forward your momentum, you have to depend on not just historical events, but emerging trends, emerging events, macro events that are happening currently. So you may have a FY 2019 and 2018 results, right? And at best, you have a management account of first half 2020, right? So, but what happens in July, August, September, for example, after you publish it? So news can be flowed through, and the relevant, macro and microeconomic statistics can be added to determine your KPM. Then you can basically put in your growth assumptions, and the growth assumptions takes into account your strategies versus your competitor, versus the industry, versus the economic environment. So anything that the machine produces is explainable and defensible in most cases when dealing with the acquiring parties, the buyer, the seller, the buyer, that's right. So how it incorporates, again, if you look at the NLG and NLP, which my fellow panelists can explain more, NLG looks at the financials and the structured data. The NLP looks at the unstructured data. Think of it as Cambridge Analytica, right? So you can basically plow through the profile of industry, people, economic, product, company, person, right? You can plow through all this through social media and premium articles. So with all these things, it gets compressed, it gets processed, and then it starts going through the level 1, level 2 to level 5. So this is how we train the machine to be able to think like an expert and brings all the points together and push it forward. Because of this technology, many universities that are lacking in terms of industry progress in Industry 4.0 have been approaching us from all over the place, wanting to incorporate the knowledge base of such technology into the curriculum, because they realize that what we study in school is no longer, much of it is no longer relevant, and they need to keep up with the industry. So you can see that the ecosystem is beginning to be awakened by the power of AI. And when I say AI, I didn't invent AI, right? AI is very universal, very, very big, right? A very big spectrum. So this is why the technology has matured over the past 14 years from where we are from. And we are very happy with how this is being used by politicians, by educators, by doctors, medical professionals, by, of course, CFOs, CIOs, chairmen, executive board directors, and so on. So it's very, it's real. The demand is very real. The use cases are very impactful, and we continue to see a lot of companies and public organizations starting to view the intrinsic value of organizations as a means to determine whether you're a star or star in the making, or basically not a star at all. You're just a rock, right? And what are the ways for us to polish the gem, the raw stone into a diamond? I think that's the ultimate aim of using AI as far as valuing companies are concerned. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nazri. And we'll get back to Nazri in a moment, but I'd like to now introduce Micah Mangione, who's the president of CONNECTAI. He, like Nazri, has spent a career in technology. He has deep practical experience in planning, developing, implementing, and maintaining intelligent software and technologies. He's now focused on making enterprise AI technologies available to small and medium-sized businesses, similar to Nazri. So we thought it'd be really great to get these two really smart folks together today and talk more about how SMBs can benefit from these technologies. So Micah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and expertise today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'll go ahead and I will, if it's okay, I'll share my screen. So yes, very much like Nazri, we are working in the AI space, and just a little bit about us. We have been, as a company, developing software for about 10 years, and we really have specialized in large scale and automated solutions for small and mid-sized businesses, but all the way up to very large enterprises. So you can kind of see some of our customers at the bottom here. And in this process, I was going to school for working on my PhD in artificial intelligence at Arizona State University, and trying to run this business, trying to run my software company, CONNECTAI, and really was having significant problems with running a company and doing the marketing. And so I thought, well, we are working on AI actively in my PhD. Why do I need to, if we're using AI to put rovers onto extralunar surfaces like Mars, for example, why am I doing my own social media? And so that was really kind of the inception of the idea. And it's really taken off from there. But before we talk about CONNECTAI, I first want to talk a little bit about the dynamics of AI. And I want to get started simply, which there's AI that we hear in pop culture. But really what AI is it's a collection of things that you've probably heard, buzzwords and key phrases. And AI is quite a broad topic area. So it might be one or more of these, and depending on what you need for your business, you'll pick not just AI as a whole, but you'll pick a specific branch. If you want to do predictive analytics or clustering or information extraction, you kind of have all of these methods that we use, that we all lump into the term of AI. So it might be a little bit confusing, but you might hear any one of these referred to as AI, but this is how they're all related. And I think over time, the promise of AI has really been clear. A future where our computer systems augment human labor. And I think that we've all come to understand the wide benefits available to businesses for this. And we've all become, through pop culture, aware of the threats, or what we perceive to be the threats. But as is often the case, both the future and the perceived future and the threats fail to really match up to reality. And the reality of the situation is that the technology is in a much different place. And in order to really understand where we are in terms of the technologies, it's helpful to look at the Gartner hype cycle. So this is a set of charts where Gartner tries to understand. They say all technologies follow these 5 key points. So it really depends on where the technology is, so that we can place it just in terms of this hype cycle for our businesses. So what the real hype of AI, so this was Gartner's chart as of 2019. And so you can see what they believe to be in terms of the years and in terms of timing. Where are we productive with AI? And it turns out that we are productive in really only 2 areas that we do very well, and the rest have ongoing needs for development. You can see that speech recognition and GPU acceleration, we're very good at that. Lots of platforms and modules that you can use, you can plug into, libraries for your software. And some of the things that we see as some of the hottest areas of AI are actually kind of in an area of inflated expectations. You know, the quantum computing comes to mind, although I don't know how that's fully related to AI. But also you can see here, you know, neural networks, you can see chatbots, things like this. So, so it's important whenever we're considering the adoption of a technology that we really take a step back from the hype and look at where this is inside of this cycle, and before we determine how much effort that we're going to invest in trying to develop a solution based on it. And the benefits are pretty clear. When surveyed, Deloitte found that enhancing products and services and business operations were the two leading factors for the development of AI. And these were the two key considerations that businesses had, or by and large. But you can kind of see the rest here. Oops. And, you know, the state of investment for AI is generally very good. So over the past 3 years, up until this chart, at least in 2018, and this did actually follow the same, roughly the same chart, or the same trajectory for 2019. And that means investment's growing at about 80% annually. So we have significant global investment in developing these technologies and in AI as a space itself. And the primary driver of AI technologies is actually the level of acquisitions. So these are acquisitions of US-based startups. These are not international. If you expand into the international market, you'll find that the drivers are the same. You'll find that Chinese companies like Baidu and Tencent and Alibaba are making very sweeping acquisitions as well. And these acquisitions have a tendency to set the valuation for the entire industry above and beyond, you know, just the key considerations. So kind of like what Nazri had talked about, these acquisitions actually help you set a higher multiple on your valuation based on what these companies are willing to pay. So then, you know, the question is it right? Is it time to adopt AI in your business? And the real answer to that is it depends. It depends a lot on whether or not what you want to use it for, and whether or not your industry and whether or not your company is ready for it. There is adopting AI is an ongoing process, and it requires new skills which you may not have. It requires a sort of culture that you may not have at the moment, and in order to really see the benefits of it, aside from kind of one-off implementations, that there is a whole set of processes that you need to implement in terms of your data security, governance, how you collect it, how you store it and tag it, how you process it for your company. So all these considerations need to be taken ahead of time, because AI is an amazing, it's an amazing benefit for the areas that it can improve. And it can also be a significant drain on your resources and capital, because it's a highly capital intensive process. So it really needs to justify the cost. And so what we thought that we would do is I would kind of give a case study on how we have applied AI and our solution, and how we saw the valuation and why we went down the path that we did. And hopefully this might be helpful for anybody thinking about developing future AI applications for yourself. So the problem that we're trying to address is how businesses appear online. And when we were trying to figure out how we should appear online, it came down to really two ways. You can either be organically placed online, which means that your website and your company shows up on search engines, on Google, on Bing, on Baidu, on Yandex, or you pay for that placement. You know, you give Google or any of these engines money, and they show you in their results. And the reason that you might want to consider showing up organically is because over time, the cost per lead decreases as you invest in the content to show up organically in these search engines. So as an example, and this is a little bit old, but it still holds true. Eloqua did a study in 2014 and found that you would get approximately 9 leads per $1,000 on average if you were paying for paid placement. And over time, with a consistent investment, within about 3 years, you're getting 31 leads per $1,000 spent. And these are qualified leads, by the way, not just any. So you can see that content marketing would be an attractive, for any business, content marketing would be an attractive way that we would go. So our approach has been to help companies with that content marketing. And we do leverage AI to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And when we started this process of developing the AI, what we looked at is what areas were time intensive, were repeatable, and had an ability to be automated in a way that what produced a high quality output. So that ended up being the curation of content, that ended up being the generation of the initial text for the content, image selection, the selection of your hashtags and your groups, and it also ended up being the back-end analytics. So these are things that when broken down into their subcategories were easy for us to develop technologies around to answer. And with the other way that we looked at this problem is in the channels and in the distribution of channels. So AI enabled us to develop solutions to address this multi-channel approach, where we didn't just have to focus on a traditional company may have a marketing manager and you may have some people working on content, and that content is going to be spread out slowly from platform to platform. Maybe you're focused on Facebook, or maybe your business is focused on Instagram to get images and pictures out. But AI really allows an all of the above approach. And it allows you to reach out over every platform simultaneously, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So it really is a forced multiplier. And what it comes down to for every business is what sorts of money are you saving? And so for us, the important calculations initially were what are the cost savings versus the various ways you could run a business, and what would you be looking at saving in terms of human labor and time by adopting a solution like this. So that this was just our monetary value versus the packages that we had offered, and what it really came down to was a labor offset ratio. So when you include all of the time and cost savings from AI, what are you looking at saving, and what is the driving factor in the business? And for us, it was determining how much savings you can achieve by automating each of these individual pieces. And as of today, we have a labor offset ratio of 8-to-1, which means our AI can do the work for approximately 8 human representatives. So if you have a marketing department of 10 people, you can effectively take 8 and repurpose them to, move them over to revenue generating activities rather than having them focus on the process of content creation. So when we are driving value in businesses, where it's not a theoretical value, it's a very direct value. And this is the sorts of things that we had considered and that we talk about and look at with our AI solution. So hopefully that's kind of interesting, and if anybody has any questions, I'm open for questions. This has been kind of a very iterative process for us to go through and to figure this out over time, but it's been 4 years, and I have to say that we didn't really have a good grip on what our actual KPIs were for about 2 of those 4 years. So it's a very, very, very experiential for us.
Good to hear that it's helped you get there. So basically, you're talking about an intelligent automation to augment, or supplement, and save resources. And so you've, based on that last chart that you showed, you're focusing mostly these days on the marketing assistance, it looks like, because that's where the biggest bang for the buck is. And it sounds like you're selling both to enterprises and to agencies. So is that the takeaway from this chart?
Yeah. So the takeaway from this chart is that we are doing enterprises and agencies. And when we started, we actually hit the wrong mark, because this system was developed around me as what I would have wanted as a small business owner. I was running my software company. But over time, what we found is that the larger the company, the larger the savings. And so when we got out of selling solely to small and mid-sized businesses and started really analyzing the cost savings, we started kind of going up the size chart. And so we started selling to enterprises, agencies, and governments. And when that happens, this chart is tremendously important, because this is a substantial amount, and these are monthly savings. So this is a substantial amount of money that these departments are looking at saving for the same activity. So for them, it enables new possibilities.
What is the business plan that's shown here? What does that mean?
So the business plan, these are the levels. So the first 4 items are our standard business, our standard set packages. So that's the social only, intro plan, startup, and business plan. These were our intro 4 packages. And then for enterprises and for agencies, those are our offerings for them on the right-hand side. And you can kind of see the real stark difference when we, it comes down to utilization. And so an enterprise and a digital marketing agency has a much greater need for content, and they spend much more time and effort in developing that content. So for the most part, once an agency grows beyond a certain size, and this applies even to, let's say, governments are very close to agencies, they spend most of their time on distributing sourcing the content, getting it proofed, and then distributing it. So they have very little time for analytics. They have very little time to go back and figure out even whether the content's working. So these are areas where AI could do it very well, and they can do it in the background. It doesn't take a computer any more time to analyze the effectiveness of posts than it does to do the posting, because it can do it in the background and continuously.
That makes sense. How has your company valuation changed with this shift that you've made to these technologies?
So that has been an interesting and ongoing discussion, but for us, this labor offset ratio has been a substantial force multiplier, because we are able to achieve things that a normal company wouldn't. So when you look at our bottom line, you know, we're spending a substantially lower amount than a competitive company that didn't have AI driving the marketing. So these drivers for us, they affect both kind of the top line and the bottom line of what we bring in. So this has allowed us to really, I would say that this technology is maybe a 2 or 3x multiple over competing companies that aren't using this, because we have fewer people, we have you know, a lower staff, and we can achieve more with that staff than you could with just humans.
Got it. What's your kind of getting back now a little bit to what Nazri had introduced? What's your reaction to that? I saw that you had a question as well, although I think it's been answered in the Q&A section. When you saw Nazri's application for valuation, you know, is that something that you've worked with already? You know, have you seen that before? And kind of what's your response to that?
Yeah, so I was kind of curious about Nazri. That this was a very, I mean, this is not standardized yet, and the big problem about for us that we've seen in communicating the value of a technology is it comes down to really kind of an individual. There's no set way, and so you kind of have to say, okay, well, here's the valuation methods that we used, and those might not be the valuation methods that are used by the person you're talking to. So there's not a standard way that we found. So that was my question to Nazri: is there a standard way that the industry is gravitating towards, and is there kind of a standard way of looking at these technologies?
Yeah, I think whichever methods or approaches that one undertakes, as I mentioned earlier, right, there has to be a baseline. Like we went through a 3-month exercise with a Big Four firm that attempts to value our technology, our business, right? And so they did a comparable approach, a comparison approach. So they identified all the 10, 12 AI companies in the world. They look at the multiples, they look at fundamentals, they look at qualitative to blend with the quantitative. So what our report was attempting to do was to blend both the financials, which is the quantitative, against the qualitative, and then map it against the 4 standard, I would say, common evaluation methods. But I must admit that those methods are applicable to more of the SMEs. So for AI companies, the approach would be more on the IP, intellectual property assets, the ability to generate new business, new revenue, new clientele, new markets, and the scale and the pace at which it can generate. The methods of valuing AI companies is a bit different than the traditional and conventional method. If you look at how the AI companies in NASDAQ, in NYSE, in Shenzhen Stock Exchange, right, the way they evaluate has to be more than just the balance sheets, P&L, and the strategies. It will look at the underlying IP. It will look at the the ability of that IP to scale up pretty fast, and the sales multiple ratio, right? Sales multiple for an AI company ranges between 50 to 30x. Okay, and that is and if you're an autonomous AI vehicle company, you can get between 30 to 40x of sales. And then if you are data analytics, you are an insights platform, you can get between 10 to 15x. And the rest of the non-AI, non-analytics will tend to attract below 12x as a form of valuation. But after they do the X, right, they do the multiplier on your sales, still the investors will look into the fundamentals. It always falls back to the historical, it always falls back to the current, it always falls back to the traditional PE multiples, net NTA and NAV. So this is how they do what you call a hybrid method, but the baseline will always be the traditional. And if you belong to the very unique set of technology, they will adopt the scalability factor to determine the potential value of your company. That's why sometimes AI or not AI, right? Companies can get ridiculously valued, right? We've heard about the WeWorks, of the world. We've heard about how the Ubers of the world had to revalue their businesses and all that. I mean, AI or not, doesn't matter. But the point is, valuation can be a crazy thing if you just stick to one method. So the message that I'm putting across in my presentation is that you got to have different methods. So you know how to address and tackle whenever people question your fundamentals. Okay, then you look at your assets. People question on your hype, right, which is your multiples and generated by other comparables. Then you fall back on the next method that is based on your, let's say, annualized growth earnings and annualized capital growth and all that. So the best way for any SME or startup is to have that plethora or a few set of valuation methods to defend, right, your assumptions and to defend against the valuation of your company. You have to have both. We went through that process, and suffice to say, for that 2 months, right, we ourselves can value business, right, but we have to cover all angles. Then they give us that 20, 30x or 10 to 20x, depending on the stage of the economy and the volatility of the economy. So you have to defend it, to the end, because it's your life's work.
So would you say that that are you seeing that this is a that investors are placing a high in terms of the valuation that we're placing a high emphasis on actual patents, because here in the U.S. it's not kind of common practice to patent software. But would you, for us and for the audience, would you recommend that we pursue patents, and would those justify the value in an AI company or an AI technology?
Very interesting question, very real question. There are two sets of investors right now. The old school will always fall back on the patents and the trademarks and the copyrights. And as we know, AI algorithms cannot be patented unless you patent the framework. So for many years, lawyers come to us, government agencies that issue grants, right, will tell us, okay, what patents do you have? Right, but we keep telling them, how do you patent the algorithm? You're basically opening up all your secret sauce of the world, right? Mm-hmm. So the next most intelligent answer that I've ever gotten was from another lawyer that says that, well, you don't patent your algorithms, but you patent the framework, right? But so you can technically patent your framework, your model, your general architecture without doing the algorithms. So that still belongs to the old school, right? The traditional way of looking at things. So unless you're building a machinery, right? You're building a machinery, you're building some kind of furniture design that can fold your beds into 4 parts or something like that. But when it comes to AI, you can't really patent it for many years. Whether you are a patent lawyer or you're a trademark lawyer, they know that it cannot be patented. How do you patent an algorithm, right? So it's not like pharmaceutical or anything like that. But on the other hand, the new school, right, we look at really on the speed to market, the go to market, the traction, the T factor. So they will live and die by the matrix, okay, on your revenue generating capability and your ability to build a large community that has a factor to convert that into, I'm sure you went through this, to convert into sales. Then they place the projection based on that. So that to them, the new school of valuing B2C businesses especially really lies with that, less of patents and trademarks and copyrights, but more on the action capabilities, especially for B2C. So for B2B, it's just about your, what sort of clientele do you have, tier 1, tier 2, what sort of markets you cover, 1 or 10, right? So the fact that you covered many markets, right, 4 or 5 markets I heard at the onset, that means that it has the ability to scale by markets. So that means the markets is driven by the product or the service. Then the service is delivered by a set of management. And the set of management has a certain kind of shareholders backing them, right, of a certain background. So they piece it up together, and then they will compare it against the recent transactions, and then they compare it against your historical. Then they try to get a discount out of your projections. So this is how the new school do a quick assessment of your business, but still they fall back to the tradition as a baseline. They will never let go of their PEs, your PE ratios, your margins and your net asset value. They still look at that, but at the back of their mind, they look at the future rather than the historical and the past. I'm very surprised because we thought that, okay, even if I started a business with 100,000, why would you bother about my $100,000 revenue? Why would you be concerned about the 2 clients I had when I first started my business? They still fall upon that. And then 80% of the time, they start looking into the future. So you can't escape the past and the present. Yeah.
So are you finding that this also holds true of how they are valuing existing businesses that adopt AI for their core processes? Is it the same process? Like let's just say that I am I'm an established company that's been around for a while. Maybe I'm selling water equipment, for example.
Yeah.
But then I implement AI in terms of like a back-end ordering system, and just as an example. So I have an existing business, and now I'm slotting AI technology in there. How are you finding that the valuation methods are changing for that?
Oh, it's very, very prominent. Okay, from your water equipment example, I just bring you to something even very prevalent: accounting services, or if you're an audit firm or accounting services, right? So the multiples right now for the past 8 to 10 transactions in the last 2 years in Singapore and Malaysia, in Asia particularly, right? The multiple, or rather the discount that you get out of selling your accounting firm 100% is 0.6 to 1.2 times of your sales. 0.6 to 1.2x of your sales. Okay, wow. That is if you're an accountant with 500 clients, right? And you've been doing this for the past 20 years. Okay, so these are very, very common indicators applied, and you can pay 20% upfront, and the balance of it you can pay installment over 2 years. That's how attractive accounting firms are. If you're going to do something about it now, assuming, and this is what's happening now, assuming that same accounting firm that I spoke about, that has the multiples of 0.8 to 1.2x of your sales, right? Top line, right? In Singapore, it's about 1 to 1.5x. So it varies from country to country. Now, assuming that same example I gave, right, decides to open a subsidiary, a wholly owned subsidiary that does AI analytics on accounting. That means they convert all the accounting customers into a CFO type of services using AI. Straight away, your 0.8 to 0.6 to 0.8 times, 0.6 to 1.2 times will attract a valuation of that little startup there to become 8 to 15x.
Wow.
You're talking about the same company, same management, different business model, right?
Wow.
It will be worth more than a parent, and that is very scary. So another example, 6-7 years ago, Doug, when you were in Singapore during that period, we faced 2 companies. One is an $80 million company, okay, annual turnover, with operations in 20 over countries in Africa, selling, they are basically exporting used cars, but they have a franchise of automotive parts, cars, second-hand cars, used cars. They import, export, right? And then they refurbish it, and then they export it. And then they also run a franchise series of workshops. 80 million turnover, profit margin maybe about 5 to 8%, right? So how much is that company worth based on the valuation done by a corporate finance advisor licensed by Singapore MAS, right? Or the central bank, right? So it's worth $20 million, right? So there's this number thingy, sales, profit, PE, tangible assets, all that, 20 million. Now, what happens to the same, another company that does services, a legal firm that splits up into 10 to 12 little startups on non-legal activities. Non-legal means non-legal professional services. So they do, some of them do compliance, some of them do, copywriting, editing, media, collection of that 10, 12 companies. And this is done by even another law firm that listed in Singapore Stock Exchange, right? So that company collectively has revenue, that 10, 12 startups, collectively less revenue than $2 million, and not really profit making. 2 million loss making against an 80 million company, right, with a 5% profit margin. That is worth 20 million on one side. This one is less than 2 million loss making. It's worth $80 million paid as a market cap. So that was 5 years ago, right? Services versus automotive, traditional sunset industry, so to speak. The international operations, big, they own factories, buildings, hundreds of workshops all over Singapore and outside of Singapore. So what does it mean? It means that, I mean, there's a lot of topic on this, so many real cases from the Grabs of the world, you know, from the Ubers of the world, from the WeWorks. Those are very extreme, right? Those are unicorn play. But I'm talking about SMEs. I'm talking about startups. So
Wow.
things like that will continuously question the valuation methods, right? And why these two are, one is a startup, a little startup, spun off out of a legal firm. The other one is an established 30-year-old company. So what do you do when you see such a disparity? Hence, the owners ultimately falls on the business owner. You must know your valuation. Don't let people decide. You must know your true worth. You must know your net worth. You must know the intrinsic value of your business. And if you can't afford somebody or humans to charge you bombs, right? Use technology. There's so many types of technology that you can bring together and determine what is your underlying intrinsic value. Then from there on, you justify it with the facts and figures that supports it at the present state as well as the future state. So this is what how technology can really impact your business. From as far back as 5 years ago when Doug came to our Science Park office, which we have moved since then to Central. But the point is, it brought back memories about that little incident. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Which took place in our boardroom, by the way. We were facilitating the businesses together. Yeah.
Sounds
I think,
good.
Roger, there's a question for you, Roger. Sorry, for Micah from Roger. Sorry.
Oh, I see it. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I missed this.
Price
Roger.
of leads. Yep.
Zoom chime.
Your slide showed the 31 leads per $1,000 and 9 leads per $1,000. What do you think is relevant for today?
Oh yes, yeah. I think that is absolutely still relevant, and in fact, we're seeing much better. That is kind of with the traditional approach of developing content and everything that comes along with it. So our benchmark is much higher than that for our system. We aim for a minimum of about 60 leads per 1,000 after 24 months. So we are focused on getting that cost per lead down as little as possible. So it is still relevant. And I think that is still, those are still good numbers, which is why even though that was 2014, the importance of content for all intents and purposes, Google has changed their algorithms to focus more on content. I mean, now Google, if you just kind of look at what Google wants as a company, their value is driven only by whether or not your search turns up something that is useful. And if you type your search query into Google and can't find anything useful, their value as a company and as a search platform drops. So over time, there has kind of been this dynamic balance where they have invested billions and billions of dollars into detecting any sort of what we call the black hat SEO tricks. And they've developed billions and billions of dollars. They've spent that in developing routines that actually come to your site and start reading your content. So now more than ever, I would say in 2014, way more so than in 2020, way more so than in 2014, content was king then, and it's only become more important now. So I think those numbers are still roughly correct, except you probably need a lot more content nowadays. Hopefully that answers your question.
We went a little bit over our hour, so we probably should be doing some wrap up. And while we do that, let me circle back with Raj. If you're still there, it would be great to get your comments as well. If you're still, it looks like you might be. Based on what you're saying here, Raj, what are your reactions both to what Nazri talked about and what Micah talked about?
Definitely. Thank you. I don't know if you can see me, but I can. Can you hear me, right?
We can hear you, but we can't see you, but we see your icon anyway. Very handsome.
Okay, okay, cool. Yes, definitely. I think that's great a presentation from Nazri and as well, Micah. Definitely, I think I had spoken to Nazri yesterday for 2 hours almost. I think I really see the depth of the work what they're doing on the energy side. I think it's really powerful to have that information in the current world, really about useful information from the structured data for sure. And of course, unstructured data is something we're also working on AI space, which is actually looking at what Micah has mentioned about getting the valuable insights about social media, news. And definitely, I think it's valuable. The way I put it together is that, yes, there is lots of information, structured and unstructured. It's humanly impossible for us to actually, it is a doable task, but it takes a lot of time to do that, and also to the level of accuracy. We are humans, we do make mistakes, and obviously each person can do things differently in the level of accuracy and efficiency, right? This is where at least some of the technologies in AI, NLP or NLG can be really useful to actually automate some of the processes to bring value to the businesses for sure. And definitely, I think the point is that to augment some of our day-to-day work, right, as humans, like that could be analysts, management team, as well as the decision makers, right? Power in the hands of them in the quick insights, really about, I think I really value that as well. And in terms of the impacts, I believe the question you asked, Doug, is like, yes, we're all like everyone else, all the way from big names to small companies, like everyone is affected in this current COVID situation, right? So it's not an exception that we are guarded. But yes, I think good sign is that the lockdowns are coming out, that people are now being sensible and also trying to come out and trying to make decisions. And I think we'll just forget it very soon, and then we just move on.
Makes sense. That's Raj Mupala of AI Infinity. So thank you for calling in and zooming in from London. Micah, how about you? Would you like to wrap up, please?
Sure. I think that if there was one real takeaway that I'd have here, it's that AI has a substantial amount of promise, and whether or not you are looking at a new venture or whether or not you're looking at augmenting your existing ventures. But one thing that's very important to emphasize is, even going back to that chart of what it takes to successfully implement the AI processes in your company. If you have an existing company, it's not as easy as going out and just grabbing things off the shelf and sliding them in. That will work, but it works no better. If models that aren't tuned to your company work no better than spreadsheets. So from that perspective, as a company, you really have to be ready to experience those values. And also, it's important to remember that any time that you train these AI systems to your company, they have a shelf life. That value in their output that they give you is not good forever, especially if you're doing things like using it for predictive purposes. So, we see this with kind of the quantitative hedge funds and things like that on Wall Street, that in order to be predictive, they have to constantly be trained and retrained and retrained, because if they skip that process for just a few days, that AI fails to be predictive and starts generating wrong values. And so, when it's AI, I think, especially with everything that Nazri had pointed out, AI is really can be substantially. The multiples are amazing, but as a company, you have to be available to, and your processes have to revolve around being able to harness those improvements. So I think that any business can, but you just have to kind of be ready for it. I think that's maybe the point I would make.
Great, thanks for sharing today. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Nazri to do your wrap up. Great information. I mean, you shared it both directly and then through the chat room. So thank you so much. You're a constant fountain of useful information for business owners. So really appreciate that. Would you please wrap up and for today and for tonight?
AI to me, AI is a means to an end. AI does not replace the work done by others. It helps to facilitate rapidly the process of addressing a particular pain point. So if to do a service is very expensive and AI reduce it to a fraction of a cost, AI then becomes useful. If something that takes very long and it can cut the fraction, of the time taken to do the particular job, then AI is useful, right? So if AI can replace the task, in this case, Micah gave an example of 1:8, right? So then it is useful. So the usefulness of AI lies in the fact that it's able to identify risk early, determine your intrinsic value. It can identify opportunities in that sense, right? And it is also able to cut short the process of processing information. And this is why AI is needed in our daily life. Make AI your friend. Yeah, make AI serve you and become your friend rather than you serve AI or dependent on AI all the time. So at the end of the day, we feel that with the cost-benefit proposition deploying AI to value your business, it becomes a very, very clear and effective, impactful way to get your business forward, especially in these highly uncertain times. Thank you.
One of the things people talk about AI is that it'll replace people. It's clear that it'll never replace a Nazri or Micah or Raj, the super smart people. It might replace Doug Bruhnke at some point, for sure, in certainly various aspects. So when do you see AI kind of taking over the workforce, or where are you seeing it doing it today?
What do you think, guys? I shall leave the difficult answers to Raj and Micah.
Because you talk about an evaluation that used to take 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months, in detail, right? The 2 to 3 weeks, kind of a traditional way. And now you've got something that happens in a day or a short amount of time. Undoubtedly, there's accountants or financial people or analysts that it's replacing, right? Through some of that?
Well, valuation report is a valuation report, but at the end of the day, the specialist needs to take that report, right? And to explain the mechanics and to advise the client based on those facts. Otherwise, they would taken like 3 weeks later, right? So now you're able to take that report in one day, and you can handle like 5 or 10 other clients, new clients, to serve in 1 day or 2 days, right? Because now your throughput and your turnaround time is much faster. So at the end of the day, you don't want to take 3 weeks to serve one client. You want to take 1 or 2 days to handle 10 clients. So, and the human factor can be serving 10 clients in 2 days, assisted by technology like this, right? Like AI. So I think that is a value proposition, very simple value proposition that we must embrace, and we must be facing the reality. So it could replace tasks, whether it's monotonous or complex, but it will never replace human. I wish it can replace me so that I have more retirement plans coming soon, my way. But you still need the humans to communicate the findings and maintain relationship with the clients and all that.
Yeah, good. You nailed it. So it's tasks rather than people, and I think that's definitely the way to look at it. And Micah, you built your business on the marketing side that way, right? There's marketing tasks that can be replaced by the technology, and you've done that. And because there's so much time potentially involved, you've got now you coming in the morning, and the system very quickly determines like what blog post should I be writing, and you just pick one and then say okay, and then it starts to take it into social media from there. So somebody needs to still intervene as a person, but a lot of the tasks are required previously are replaced.
Yeah, I mean, what we're finding is really that it's the biggest value for AI has been replacing the monotonous pieces, which is the AI can go out and it can find engaging content. It can do that work. It can analyze analyze the content and figure out which content you should be using. It can do that. But what it can't do is it can't make that executive decision about what you should be using, what actually works for your business. So there has to be a human that exerts that top level of vision of the whole process. So we are actually finding the exact same thing, that we are having great success in automating tasks, but we still need human intervention for that higher level of cognitive processing. Does the article, does it represent something that you want to talk about? When it generates a summary of that article and starts to create an amalgamation of all the different sources, is this in your voice? Is this in how you would sound and how you want your company to be seen online? And so those things, those answers can only come from a human. The machine can do heavy lifting in terms of writing, in terms of finding, scouting, analytics, but it can't make those decisions for you in the company. So we don't see this replacing people, because it's not something that you would just want to turn on and walk away from. It's something that you do have to watch over, because the AI intrinsically doesn't have the same sorts of values that you do, and it doesn't view your company in the way that you do. So we really see this as, especially for the content, as automating the mundane things with content, but the higher level decisions, you still have to be there. And when you implement a system like this, the roles change for the humans. So then the humans are not necessarily thinking about what they're going to write. Now they're thinking about how can I find a new channel for distribution, so that the AI now isn't posting to 3 Facebook groups like we were before. Maybe we've divided our business into 10 separate categories, and each one is posting to 30 Facebook groups. So the role of a human hasn't been eliminated, but now these marketing people are doing different tasks. They're finding new modes of distribution that they can use to hook the AI into, rather than focused on just the 3 Facebook groups they used to do consistently before. So it's a change rather than an elimination.
Thanks, Micah. Thanks, Nazri. This is the 2nd episode of 4, and Nazri, the next session is a week from today, same time, same place. It's going to be talking about joint ventures and partnerships, a digital approach. And so how do you envision that going, and who should be attending that?
Well, businesses can grow organically, or they can, pursue their own efforts into your countries. But they can also, on the other hand, pursue joint ventures and partnerships as a means to enter a market. I think this is an area that you're master of, Doug. So when you go into various metros, various cities, various regions, you will need to have enough insights about the country, about industry, about the potential partners, about your own internal capabilities and knowledge entering into that country. So then the next question backs into, it then becomes like, what sort of partnerships are you entering into? Is it a strategic alliance? Is it a reseller, financing, licensing agreement? Is it going to be an equity swap and things like that? So we're going to adopt a more empirical and experiential perspective on how these are being carried out, with some case studies and some models that will be useful for SMEs that want to venture out of their own domestic market, startups that want to scale into new markets, and these are a lot of things that we can share, the mistakes that we've made. I mean, we are in 28 countries, so a lot of them we have a lot of experience, a lot of hard knocks, a lot of things to share, the horrors and the dreams and the visions, and for most parts, success in terms of the relationship, in terms of the activities that's taken place. So like the webinar that I had earlier was with my West African partners, who also covers almost 40 over plus African countries, African nations in Africa itself. So it's not just one part of Africa, but quite a lot of coverage there. So they open us a lot of opportunities. I traveled a lot there. I learned a lot from them, and they exposed me to a lot of institutional clients and partners as a result. So, but of course, there are rocks, there are stones, there are boulders in front of us all the time. How do you handle that? And what sort of structure would make it more palatable? And I say structure means it's not just the traditional structure. We are always very innovative. I like to think of that. We always come out with new method, new model that are more applicable to the more innovative companies, startups, tech companies, and so on. So I think we shared that a lot with Raj last night. Some of the models that we pursued when we venture out to all our countries, right, Raj?
Yeah, it was really powerful and amazing actually to see the extent of how it can shape up. Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's great.
So I assume that you'll be there next week to share some of your thoughts too, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
That would
Thanks,
be
Doug.
great. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you, Nazri. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Raj. And we'll see you next week. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Micah and Raj.
Thank you,
Everyone else.
everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.